I am not supporting Amendment 51 today, because the central choice for Parliament is whether we accept the outcome of the referendum and the Article 50 process and agree that the UK leaves the European Union in March 2019, or do we seek to subvert that process? And perhaps the Norway option, the European Economic Area, suits that purpose. The EEA agreement helped 3 small countries who could not persuade their people to adopt EU membership. 3 countries who accepted having no say in return for single market membership, accepting the role of rule takers, not rule makers. Second-class membership of the European Union. Now, much has been said about Michel Barnier this morning, saying he'll give us the EEA plus the customs union. Of course he would. He'd bite the hand off the Prime Minister for this deal, because it's, apart from leaving without any deal, it is the worst deal for the United Kingdom. I believe the Honourable Lady says shame, and actually I'm afraid to say it's that sort of contribution to this debate which is so unhelpful and divisive. I believe that we do have to reach consensus on the way ahead. I do believe we have to be as close to the single market as possible. I do believe there should be a customs arrangement. But I also importantly recognise an overlooked issue for at least 15 years since we let the first A8 in on immigration. I'm afraid she doesn't reflect that on behalf of her constituents. No, I won't give way. No, thank you. I'll give way to my honourable friend.
Thank you. Can I just say to my honourable friend, she and I may disagree, but she's making an excellent speech, and she's right what she says about the tone of this debate. It must be done properly.
I thank my honourable friend, because there will be a point when we leave the European Union, when on this side of the House we have to work out what are our policies for the challenges that our country faces ahead, and I know that on those areas we will come together. There is no precedent for a country the size of the UK leaving the European Union. It is new ground. It demands a new relationship, and that is not a replication of Norway. The terms of the EEA membership clearly do not allow the sort of changes to freedom of movement that some of my right honourable and honourable friends have suggested. The only provision affecting migration is the Liechtenstein solution, a temporary break on immigration in the event of an economic crisis, a provision for a country with a population half the size of my constituency, Don Valley. That is not an adequate response to public concern to lack of control the UK has had over EU migration since 2004. And I would say to my honourable friend, the member for Streatham, there are many people from the black and ethnic minority community who also voted leave, who are also concerned about free movement. So to move forward, we cannot just cobble together an idea that the EEA amendment puts together. There has to be an end to freedom of movement, just in the way my honourable friends on the front bench have suggested, and then we, out of that, decide what sort of migration we want in the future. And my constituents, who have been insulted, those Leave constituents, day in and day out, by some of the comments in this place and outside, are not against all migration. But they do want to have a sense that we can turn the tap on and off when we choose, but also they want us to answer the question, why hasn't Britain got the workforce it needs? Why is social mobility stopped? Why do we train fewer doctors? Why do we train fewer doctors than Holland or Ireland? And why are these jobs dominated by those in the middle and upper classes, so my constituents don't get a look in? So, Mr. Speaker, I will be voting for the Labour amendment because it seeks to delete the EA option. It's not perfect. And if that is lost, I will vote against Amendment 51. And I urge this House to reject that amendment and begin to face up to the policy challenges of life after Brexit.
Thank you. Anna Soubry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker. I know it's courtesy, but it is not a pleasure to follow the Speaker, the Honourable Lady, Right Honourable Lady for Don Valley, somebody who I have admired for many years, but have found that to be one of the saddest speeches that I've ever heard. I will be voting. Right, well, I'll tell you why.
Stop the clock. Can I please appeal to colleagues? I understand there are raging passions on these issues, but please let's try to treat each other with respect. Members are honourable and right honourable members who happen to hold opinions which differ. Anna Soubry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You'll remember I said how much I respect the Right Honourable Lady for so much of her work, but on this I profoundly disagree. I'll be voting for the amendment, very good amendment, written and beautifully advocated by the noble Lord Kerr. I'd urge honourable members to read it. It says everything that I agree about the value of a customs union. In due course, that bill will come back. I'll make the argument. I will ask British business, please write to your local MP, explain, as the honourable member for Wantage explained, how he had spoken to one of his businesses, and they explained in good, simple, plain terms why having that customs arrangement is so important to his constituents, their jobs, their future for their children, their grandchildren. I will be voting for the EEA amendment because I believe, as I've said many, many times in this place, of the value of the single market. And I say to the Honourable Lady, I am appalled that that the Honourable Lady, as a member of the Labour Party, has stood up and not understood and appreciated the considerable value that immigrants have brought to our country. These are human beings. If I'll take an intervention when I want, I'm not afraid of a debate, and I'll take it now.
Caroline Flint.
I would urge, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Lady to look at the record of Hansel. I made very clear that I wasn't against all immigration, and I said also very clearly that nor are my constituents. But they want to feel that we have better systems in place, that they feel that it's fair and managed, and that is something they haven't felt for a long time.
I would gently say to the Honourable Lady, she represents an area of the world which this country I know quite well. I'm from North Nottinghamshire, I'm from Worksop. I also represent, of course, the constituency of Broxtowe, and it's often quite peculiarly unique and perhaps a little bizarre that those who complain most about immigration are in areas where there's actually very little of it. That is the point. It is the fear of the stranger. It is the fear of the unknown. These are the arguments, the positive side of immigration, that we have a duty as members of Parliament in our constituencies to make the positive case for immigration, to have those debates with our constituents. And it's true, and I agree, that in some parts of our country there's been a large number of people who have come in, but these are invariably Polish people, Latvians, Lithuanians, who do the work that in reality our own constituents will not do. It is a myth to say that there is an army of people sitting at home desperately wanting to do jobs. The truth of the matter is we have full employment and we do control immigration. How do we control it? It's called the market. Because overwhelmingly people come here, of course, to work. When we don't have the jobs, they simply do not come. Now, it's right, and I agree, and it's a sad legacy of previous Labour governments that there hasn't been the sort of investment in skills which this government is now doing, and has a proud record of apprenticeships by way of example. But I'd say to the Right Honourable Lady, she must speak to the businesses in her constituency, and she must ask them, who are these people? Where have they come from, and why haven't they employed locally? As I have done with the constituencies in the businesses in my own constituency. And I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that there are some who have told me they've probably broken the law. They've gone out deliberately, absolutely clearly, to recruit local people into jobs. And they have found that with very few examples, they have been unable to fill the vacancies. And they take grave exception to anybody who says that they undercut in their wages or don't offer great opportunities to people. And it is a myth, as I say, that there are armies of people wanting to work who can't work because of immigration. And the huge danger of the argument being advanced by some honourable members opposite, as the honourable member for Streatham has said, you will play into a narrative that instead of looking at other factors in life, turns to the stranger, and history tells us the danger of doing this, and blames the foreigner, the unknown, the person with a different coloured skin or accent, when actually there are other reasons for the discomforts and the problems that they have in their lives. So I say to honourable members opposite, be proud of your fine tradition, and what you should be doing is advocating the case for immigration and then saying this: suck it up. Suck it up. There is no alternative that has been advanced in this place other than the customs union, the single market. Let's grab it, let's do it and move on.
How will